For 2010 we were going to offer a new service from Craigs Music. We're going to do a pro guitar setup service. It'll be done by Eddie, who you'll see working in a minute. It'll be acoustic guitars, electric guitars, bass guitars and most repairs to them, setups, all sorts of things, fretwork. All you need to do is call into the shop for all the details, or email us or phone us on all the detail numbers and contact numbers you'll see later on. But let Ed talk you through it a bit. Obviously he's a little bit limited without the access to three-phase power today, but most of the things he can show you.
Okay, hi there, I'm Eddie. I do quite a few of the setups and repairs here at Nige. One of the biggest problems that people always seem to have is difficulties with their action. And I suppose the first thing to say is there's no such thing as a perfect action, because action and setup is very, very determined by the sort of music you play and the kind of player you are. In other words, one person's ideal setup is not another person's. What we're doing here is just taking down the string height through the nut. A lot of people think that it's the saddle height that makes an awful lot of difference to action, but particularly if you play a lot of open chords, it's the nut makes a huge amount of difference, and just 1/2 millimetre or even less than that on the grooves over which or through which the strings pass can make a lot of difference in the comfortability of the guitar's playing. So we've just been taking down the nut grooves here to make the strings a little bit closer to the fingerboard there. Obviously the saddle does determine quite a large part of the action, but it's not the whole thing. Very wrongly, people often think that you adjust action by tightening up or slackening the truss rod, which is accessible either under there or through the top there. The truss rod is there basically to compensate for changes in humidity and changes in the gauge of strings. It is not there to adjust the action of the guitar. And again, a lot of people very wrongly sight a guitar by looking at it from this end, and that tells you nothing about it. The way to sight your neck to see if you've got the right amount of relief is to look at it from this end and to try and cover up everything above the 12th fret with your hand, because the only thing that the truss rod will actually affect is the distance between there and there. And again, people often wrongly think that you need the fingerboard to be completely flat, but strings vibrate in a parabola, and because of that you do need to have very, very slight relief in the neck. So the ideal neck set is going to give you a very, very, very slight relief there to allow the strings to vibrate without buzzing. If you do your truss rod up too tightly, it goes the other way, and you find that the fingerboard crowns in the middle and you'll get all kinds of buzzes and other horrible things. The best thing to do with your truss rod key, if you get one with the guitar, is to throw it away. Quite simply because if you play around with it too much, you can do untold amounts of damage to the guitar. Okay, so this is a customer's guitar, as I say, and incidentally this is one which unfortunately the headstock got knocked off, so we've glued the headstock back onto this one. I've just put some paint over the back there to make it look nice, but there wasn't a lot of wood, unfortunately, and what we've done with this one is put a couple of hardwood pins in the headstock to hold it completely firm again. Okay, well that takes us through probably most there is to know to begin with about the action, but that's the commonest sort of work that can be done. As I say, there's no such thing as an ideal action. It depends on you, depends on your playing style, it depends on the type of music that you play, and obviously the sort of guitar that you've got. People who are fairly happy with electric guitars go onto an acoustic guitar and find that acoustic guitars are very hard to play, and that's because the action tends to be quite a lot higher and the string gauges tend to be quite a lot heavier. So it's no good asking for your acoustic guitar to play the same as your electric guitar. It won't. It's a different animal, it's a different instrument. And similarly, acoustic players that get onto electric guitars suddenly find they're bending the strings all over the place. Again, it's the right action for the right instrument and the type of music that's being played. Okay, well I hope that gives you a few basic ideas of what we do there. Simple basic setups, looking at the frets, a fret dress, taking out the little grooves that wear tends to put into the frets is a fairly simple process to do. You know, to do something like that we use a wide variety of different tools, I think, starting with this particular device here, which is an ironstone. Okay, an oiled ironstone for taking the worst out, and then progressively using different grades of wet and dry sandpaper and wire wool, and finally abrasive polishes to bring up the finish on your frets. A lot of people think, heck, I need a fret dress as soon as they see some little grooves in the frets, but you'd be surprised how much you can do with a simple straightforward fret dress there. You don't need a refret in many cases. That's your last option.